have you ever felt like you're just one step away from financial stability? Like you're grinding through your job, cutting back on little things, maybe even picking up a side gig, and you think, okay, if I can just hit this savings goal or pay off that last credit card, I'll finally be up to something. But then life happens. The car breaks down, fridge dies, rent goes up. Apartment that felt spacious last year now feels cramped because everyone else seems to be upgrading. You're eyeing that new phone because your old one's not good enough anymore. And poof, the finish line moves further away. That almost there feeling evaporates. It's exhausting, isn't it? And it leaves you wondering why, no matter how hard you try, financial peace always seems one milestone away. If that rings true for you, take a slow breath. You're not imagining it, and you're definitely not the only one. This isn't a personal failing disguised as bad luck. It's a pattern so common it has a name in behavioral psychology circles: the moving goalpost problem, intertwined with the deeper human wiring around never enough. Today, I want to walk through why this happens. Not to lecture, but to help you see your own money story more clearly. Because once you understand the mechanics, the weight starts to lift. Not all at once, but gradually. And that gradual shift can change how you feel about money more than any budget spreadsheet ever could. Let me start with something personal, so you know I'm not speaking from some detached place. A while back, maybe 7 or 8 years ago now, I was in my late 20s, single, renting a small place in a mid-sized city. My job paid decently for the area, about $58,000 a year before taxes. Not rich, but comfortable enough that I could cover rent, groceries, student loans, and still have a little left over. I decided it was time to build real security. My target? 3 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. Nothing flashy, just enough to sleep better at night. I got serious. I canceled subscriptions I barely used, cooked almost every meal at home, walked instead of taking ride shares when the weather allowed. Month by month, the number grew. When I finally transferred that last chunk and saw $9,200 sitting there, I felt light. For maybe 10 days, I walked around thinking, I did it. I'm finally ahead. Then reality did what reality does. My landlord raised rent by $220 a month to cover rising insurance costs. My car needed new tires sooner than expected. And here's the part that still embarrasses me. I started noticing how worn my couch looked compared to pictures friends were posting of their new living rooms. That $9,200 suddenly felt thin. I told myself I needed 6 months now, maybe even 9 to be safe. The goalpost hadn't just moved, it had quietly relocated to a different field. Looking back, what strikes me most isn't the rent hike or the tires, it's how quickly my own definition of enough rewrote itself without me noticing. And I've seen the exact same thing play out in dozens of conversations with friends, family, even strangers online. We tell ourselves the problem is discipline. If only we were stricter, smarter, more frugal. The internet is full of that advice. Track every penny, cut the coffee, hustle harder. And while those things can help on the margin, they don't explain why so many people who do all of them still feel perpetually almost there. The deeper answer lives in psychology. First, there's hedonic adaptation, the scientific way of saying we humans are ridiculously good at getting used to improvements. A pay bump feels amazing for 3 to 6 months, then your baseline resets. What used to be extra becomes normal, and normal expenses rise to match. Inflation plays a role here too. Groceries, rent, health insurance rarely stay flat. But even without inflation, we tend to lifestyle creep into the new income. A nicer gym because you deserve it after the promotion, a better phone plan because the old one feels slow, small upgrades that feel justified until they compound and the breathing room disappears again. Layer on top of that the comparison engine we all carry. Evolutionary psychologists say it made sense thousands of years ago. If your neighbor had more food or a better shelter, you needed to notice so you could catch up and survive. Today, that instinct runs wild on social media. You open your phone, and within 30 seconds, you've seen someone's renovated kitchen, someone else's European vacation, a coworker's new electric car. Even when you know it's curated, even when you remind yourself that nobody posts their credit card statements, your brain still registers it as evidence that you're behind. Researchers call this relative deprivation. The feeling of lack that comes from not absolute poverty, but from measuring yourself against a reference group that appears to have more. Then there's the scarcity loop that many of us inherit early. If money was tight when you were growing up, parents stressing over utility bills, no family vacations, tense conversations about we can't afford that, your nervous system learns to treat financial uncertainty as danger. Even decades later, when your income is stable, that old programming hums in the background. You save aggressively, but the moment you hit the target, your brain starts scanning for the next threat. What if the roof leaks? What if interest rates spike and your variable mortgage payment jumps? What if a parent needs help? The anticipation of loss keeps the goalpost elastic. Life events make it worse. Marriage, kids, aging parents, health issues, career changes, they all recalibrate what enough means. A single person might feel secure with $15,000 saved, add a partner and a baby on the way, and suddenly $50,000 feels more reasonable. Move to a higher cost city for a better job, and the number doubles again. None of these shifts are irrational on their own, they're adaptive, but they happen so frequently and so quietly that progress feels illusory. Let's ground this with a more detailed everyday example. Imagine you're 32, earning $4,800 a month take home. Rent is $1,600, groceries and household stuff run $550, utilities and internet another $250, minimum debt payments $400, transportation $300. That leaves roughly $1,700 before any fun or savings. You decide to get serious. Put $800 toward an emergency fund and $400 toward debt each month. Feels ambitious, but doable. 6 months in, you've built $4,800 in savings. 6 months of bare-bones expenses if everything goes sideways. You're proud. Then 3 things happen almost simultaneously. Your car insurance premium jumps $80 a month because of regional rate increases, your employer switches health plans and your out-of-pocket maximum rises, and your sister mentions she might need help covering part of her tuition next semester because financial aid fell short. None of these are catastrophes, but each nibbles at that $1,700 buffer. You adjust. Cut the savings contribution to $500, pause extra debt payments, the emergency fund stalls. 6 months later, it's still hovering around $6,000, but now you're telling yourself you need $12,000 because life clearly isn't as predictable as you thought. This pattern repeats across income levels. I know people making $180,000 combined who feel the same squeeze because private school tuition, a bigger mortgage in a good neighborhood, and 2 cars have absorbed the gains. The treadmill speeds up with income. That's why you meet people who've made it on paper, 6-figure salary, investments growing, and yet they still describe themselves as just getting by. The dopamine piece here is fascinating. Achieving a goal, hitting that savings number, paying off a card, triggers a reward hit. But like any addictive loop, the high fades fast and we chase the next one. Consumer culture knows this intimately. Ads don't sell products, they sell relief from the vague sense that you're missing something. And because money decisions are emotional before they're rational, we buy the relief, which moves the goalpost again. So where's the way out? Not in hustling harder or shaming yourself thinner with budgets. The real pivot happens when you stop letting external markers define enough and start anchoring it internally. This isn't about settling or giving up ambition. It's about clarity. What version of financial security would actually let you exhale? For some, it's 6 months of expenses plus no high-interest debt. For others, it's enough passive income to cover basics so they can take a lower-stress job. For parents, it might mean college funds on autopilot so school isn't a constant anxiety. The point is, you get to write the number, and you get to revisit it thoughtfully, not reactively. When I started doing this, I asked myself a simple question every few months. If nothing else changed, if my income stayed exactly where it is, what would let me feel calm instead of chased? The answer shifted over time, but writing it down made it real. I stopped inflating the emergency fund indefinitely and capped it to a number tied to my actual monthly burn rate. Windfalls, tax refunds, bonuses went straight to longer-term piece, extra mortgage principal, Roth contributions, rather than lifestyle creep. I practiced noticing when a purchase urge was really about status or fear instead of need. Practically, here are a few low-pressure ways to start. First, do a why journal for spending. For 2 weeks, whenever you spend, even small stuff, jot one sentence. I bought this because. It could be because I was bored, because it was on sale, because work stressed me out and this feels like a treat. No judgment, just observation. Patterns emerge fast. Second, calculate your real baseline number once a year. List non-negotiable expenses, housing, food, transport, insurance, minimum debt. Add a realistic buffer for variables, multiply by your chosen months of coverage. That's your anchor. When life events push costs up, decide consciously whether to extend the runway or accept a temporary shorter one while you adjust. Third, build small gratitude anchors. Once a week, list 3 things your current money already makes possible. A safe place to sleep, coffee with a friend, a book that quiets your mind. It sounds simple, but it interrupts the scarcity scan. Fourth, talk it out with a partner, a close friend, even a therapist if money shame runs deep. Naming the moving goalpost out loud reduces its power. Fifth, automate the boring stuff. Set up auto transfers for savings and investments right after payday. When the money's already gone, the temptation to reallocate it shrinks. None of this is revolutionary. That's the point. Big overhauls burn out. Quiet consistency compounds. As I finish this, I want you to pause for a second. Close your eyes if you want. Feel your shoulders drop a little. You're not broken for feeling like you're always almost there. That feeling is manufactured by biology that hasn't caught up to modern abundance, by a culture that profits when we stay dissatisfied, by life's inevitable curveballs. But you don't have to keep running the same loop. You get to decide what enough looks like. Not forever, just for right now. And when it changes, that's okay too. The goal isn't a perfect number on a screen. It's fewer nights lying awake, wondering if you're falling behind. It's room to breathe, to laugh with people you love, to rest without guilt. Progress isn't measured in how far the goalpost moves. It's measured in how much lighter you feel carrying it. If any part of this landed with you, try one tiny thing this week. Maybe the why journal, maybe just writing down your current enough number. Then come back to the comments and tell me how it felt. I read everyone, and hearing your stories reminds me we're all figuring this out together. Thanks for sitting with me through this. You're doing better than you think. Take it easy on yourself.